what the heck is this car? And you might have already gathered based on the title of the video, but it's a 1990 Toyota Sera, and it is an incredibly quirky, Japanese market only sports car produced from 1990 to 1995. And its standout feature is, just to mention it straight away, is the butterfly doors, which look a lot like gull-wing doors, but they are hinged differently. And this glass everywhere. So there's glass above my head, around the sides, and the tailgate is just one big piece of glass. So you're basically in a big bubble, fighter jet cockpit style bubble of glass. And it really is quite cool. It feels like open top motoring, only without all the air blowing into your face. Now the only problem is, on a warm summer's day like today, it does get quite warm in here. Now I've got these little windows here, but they are only small and not much air gets through, so it does get quite warm. You can get some removable panels that go up above your head to hide some of it, to block some of the sun, but don't have those with me. Now I'm not in Japan. This was a imported car probably at least 20 years ago. The current owners had it 18 years, and in the UK it's great because it's right-hand drive, so it's perfect for the roads already. Everything's in kilometres, but otherwise it's perfect for the UK. Now they only produced 16,000 of these Seras, and I'm not sure how many have made it over here, but again, most of them were in Japan. So where does the name Sera or Sera come from?
Just a quick interjection, there seems to be no consensus on how the car's name is pronounced. You're going to hear me say it 3 different ways in this video at least, so I clearly can't make my mind up either. Now the most likely version is Sera, because I believe that's how the Japanese pronounce it. But you're going to hear Sera, Sera and Sarah from me.
And I was looking on Wikipedia, and it says that it's just the Italian word for evening. And I was like, well, okay, it doesn't really make much sense. Why would you call a car the evening? And did a little bit more research, because you can't always rely on Wikipedia, as we know. And Sera is actually French for will be. You can see why they would say that, because it's a very futuristic car for its time. I mean, this car was introduced in 1990, so this is one of the first ones, and ran through till 1995. But the design of it, particularly the doors, were very forward-looking, and it still looks pretty cool today. It stands out. Underneath the Sera is basically a Starlet or a Paseo, so it shares a lot of components underneath with those two 90s Toyotas. And the Paseo is quite an unusual car actually, and although it's a coupe, the Paseo is a coupe, it's not quite got the same style as this. It was always quite nondescript. I like that car, but the Sera's got it for just sheer interestingness. So the Sera came with only one engine option, and that's the 1.5 litre economical Toyota unit that they use in a lot of other cars, and it has 108 horsepower. There were 2 gearboxes available, a manual, 5-speed manual and a 4-speed automatic. Now this car is the 4-speed automatic, and I have to say it actually really does suit the car quite well, because although ostensibly it's a sports car, it doesn't really feel like one particularly. The steering is very, very vague, and you can turn it quite a lot before the car does anything. But the ride is really quite nice and comfortable, and it's really, with the auto box, a really relaxing car to drive. But the engine is kind of interesting because it will do almost 8,000 RPM. Not that I'll be doing that in this car, because it's not mine, and it's been sat for a little while. In fact, it tends to rest up over winter and then come out for the summer just for a few miles here and there. This particular car's done, I mean, it's in kilometres because it's a Japanese imported car, and it's done 185,000 kilometres, which is around 115,000 miles, something like that. Which is actually fairly low mileage. It's 31, so it's not done huge amounts of miles over the time, but it has been used. And the owners had it for 18 years now in the UK, and before that someone else had it, and I think they imported it, so it's definitely been in the UK longer than it was ever in Japan. Now, with it being Japanese, you'd probably think that there'd be Japanese characters all over the place, and it'd be hard to understand what's going on. But to be honest, I can only really find in this entire cabin one bit of Japanese font. I don't know actually what it does.
Fire the nuclear weapons!
Yeah, there's only one bit of Japanese writing that I can find anywhere. We have to talk about these doors, and there's a couple of interesting things about the doors. One is that they're not actually gull-wing doors, as you might immediately assume. They are something called butterfly doors. Butterfly doors are hinged in two places, one up at the top of the A-pillar and then at the bottom, and they come forward as well as opening sideways. So they're not your bog standard boring gull-wing doors. But the interesting thing about them is that the McLaren F1 has the same style doors, and believe it or not, Gordon Murray, when he was designing it, basically took the idea from this car. He saw this car and he knew that was a good way of doing the doors. The advantage of these doors is that if you're in a tight space, now it has to be above 17 centimetres, but if you're in a tight space, you'll be able to open the door without bashing it into the car next to you. Now, the downside of that is if it's not if you are closer than 17 centimetres, you can't get out of the car. Now I have to try it out in a car park and see if these doors actually help. So, can I get out of here without hitting this fancy looking Jaguar? Yeah. The answer is yes, I can. Mission accomplished. It does actually feel like driving a convertible. It's like a convertible without all the air blowing in your face. You've got, you can see this glass up here, so it just feels like you're completely open to the elements. Only, oh, there goes the wipers. Only you're not. Turn the wipers on because it's incidentally the indicator stalk's on the right, which I've said before, I like that once you're used to it, because it means you can change gear and indicate. Not that you can change gear in this car, but I end up putting the wipers on half the time. So although it was marketed as a sports car, it's not really. It's certainly not compared to the MR2, which Toyota were apparently lining up alongside it. Now the MR2 is mid-engine and rear-wheel drive. This is front-engine and front-wheel drive, and it's much more set up for comfortable cruising, especially with this auto box. Because it's an old-school auto, you find yourself having to brake when you're going downhill because it tends to go into quite a high gear. And then speaking of the brakes, they're standardly discs at the front and drums at the rear, although you could get discs on one of the later models at the rear as well. They do the job. They're not powerful, but it's not a fast car. Now the other thing about this car that certainly would help feel it quite nippy around town, or anywhere really, is that even with the auto box, this car weighs just 930 kilos, and with the manual it's only 890. So although it's only got 108 horsepower, it's actually not that bad. It moves pretty quickly. I mean, the auto box is an old-fashioned one, so it's not performance oriented really, but it is really smooth. You can barely tell when it changes up. This particular Sera, the owner's had it 18 years, and during that time, because it's Toyota, it's pretty much been bomb-proof reliable. It's had a radiator. The door struts inevitably needed doing because they go. and it's had a new exhaust, the stainless steel exhaust. Inside this cockpit, what actually is there? Well, you've got electric windows, these little things here. You've got electrically adjustable mirrors. There's not really a whole lot in this cabin. It's quite basic. What have we got? We've got a little ashtray here, and then there's not any centre console storage, and of course there are no door pockets because it would all just fall out on your head when you open the door. Yeah, so it's just, the door's very basic, nothing on it. And then you've got a glove box, which is okay, but no cup holders. Yeah, and then there's like a hook up here, so you could hang something right in between you and the passenger, and then some lights at the back, and that's it. But the style of this thing is pretty cool. It does, as I've already mentioned, it's got that sort of cockpit feel. This it's a little bit like the Supra actually, with this shape of this dash here and the way that it's sort of around you as the driver, kind of like driver focused. The dials are kind of interesting. The font is quite strange, not exactly the sportiest font I've ever seen, and it's sort of a yellowy orange colour as well. I'm now in the back of the car and it's very cramped. I can't actually really fit here if the seat's set for my height in front, 6 foot. It's okay if you've got a very short driver. I can fit here, but the headroom is limited. But on the positive side, the view out is brilliant. It's again like the glass running down from basically the back of the car to the front. It is pretty cool. It looks really good. It's just a shame that you can't really fit back here if you're an adult. I think it'd be okay for kids. Oh, and the other problem is that it's only got lap belts, no 3-point seat belts, which is I've not seen that for a while. So this particular car is a little bit rough around the edges, but where it counts, it's got it. It's mechanically reliable and always starts first time, even if it's left for a while. But it's definitely could do with a bit of TLC on the bodywork. But interestingly, this car is for sale, so I will leave contact details for the owner in the description below, and obviously once it's sold I'll remove those, but for now that'll be there. So if you're interested in this car, please do get in touch with the owner. This window actually, it reminds me a bit of the DeLorean, the way the windows come down, and the Subaru SVX as well. I mean, it makes sense, you can't get a piece of glass that will go up and then round and into the door, so you are limited with the space. So that's the Toyota Sera, and I actually think the name Sera will be, in French, really was the right word for it, because although the doors were kind of cool and quirky and opened funny, what really was forward thinking of this car was just the sheer amount of glass. Now you're only just getting 30 years later. Now we have cars that have great big panoramic roofs and the Teslas with the glass that comes up over the top of the screen, like the extended windscreen. So in terms of it looking forward to the future, they certainly got there with the sheer amount of glass on display. Fair play to Toyota for figuring out how to do it and getting it done years and years ahead of all these other brands. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please thumbs up and all that. And if you've got a Toyota Sera, just let me know what you think about it, because they're just so strange, aren't they? And I'd love to hear from some other owners. Yeah, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.